Om Jnanatmarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin iti namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Trinadapi Sunichena Torad Eva Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. Hare Nama Hare Nama Hare Namaiva Kevalam Kalo Nasyeva 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 Gatir Anyata. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jai Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Krishna 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 Hey Krishna 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 Hey Krishna 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 Rakshama. Krishna 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 Pahima. Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rakshama. Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Pahima. Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rakshama. Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Pahima. Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rakshama. Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Pahima. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jao Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribrajacacharya Astottar Satya Simad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Syama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Tulsi Maharani ki jai, Jamuna Devi ki jai, Ganga Devi ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanande. All glories to the Krishna book devotees. All glories to the Krishna book devotees. All glories to the Krishna book devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Everything sound good? Let's go right to it. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So last week we heard that after Kamsa had been killed by Krishna, since Kamsa had no sons, his two wives, Asti and Prapti, had no recourse but to return to their father, who was none other than Jarasandha, king of Magadha. And Jarasandha, after hearing from his wives that now they were widows, Jarasandha decided that he would get rid of and entirely annihilate the Yadu dynasty, of which Krishna is the chief of the Yadu dynasty. So Jarasandha attacked Mathura, and Krishna very cleverly decided not to kill Jarasandha, but simply destroy his army. And he let Jarasandha go back home. And the reason Jarasandha did that, the reason why Krishna did that, is because Krishna's mission was to reduce and completely take care of the demoniac, overburdened population of demons. So Krishna knew that Jarasandha would simply gather another army of demons and attack, and Krishna in this way, very economically, would kill thousands of demons in one battle. So Jarasandha attacked Mathura 17 times, and each time Krishna annihilated his army and let Jarasandha go back home. The 18th time was a little different. This time, another demon, Kala-yavana, also attacked Mathura at the same time that Jarasandha was attacking for the 18th time. And we heard the history of Kala-yavana, that he was actually begotten by Gargamuni in the wife of a low-class woman. And Gargamuni did this because some of the members of the Yadu dynasty disrespected and joked with Gargamuni, and Gargamuni did not appreciate it. So he decided to make an enemy who would specifically go after the Yadu dynasty. So Kala-yavana was begotten by Gargamuni just so that he would attack the Yadu dynasty. And we also heard last week that when Krishna received Jarasandha the 18th time and Kala-yavana was also going to attack, Krishna was very concerned with the residents of Mathura. So therefore, Krishna created Dwaraka, a city on the western coast of India, a city in the water, Dwaraka. And all the residents of Mathura went to sleep, and when they woke up, they found themselves mystically transported into Dwaraka. So they went to sleep in Mathura, and when they woke up, they were hundreds of miles away. That is Krishna's Achintya Shakti, Krishna's inconceivable potency. And Krishna established that Balaram would be the city father. So that's where we pick up. This episode is entitled Kalayavana Sees Vasudeva. After establishing Dwaraka, Krishna then came out of Mathura city. Kalayavana, who had never seen Krishna before, saw Krishna to be extraordinarily beautiful, being dressed in yellow garments. Passing through Kalayavana's assembly of soldiers, Krishna appeared like the moon in the sky, passing through the assembled clouds. Kalayavana was fortunate enough to see the lines of Sri Vatsa, the particular impression on the chest of Sri Krishna, indicating Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. And Kalayavana also saw Krishna wearing the Kaustuba jewel. Kalayavana, however, saw Krishna in his Vishnu form, with a well-built body, 4 hands, and eyes like the petals of a newly blooming lotus. Krishna appeared blissful, with a handsome forehead and beautiful smiling face, restless eyebrows, and moving earrings. Before seeing Krishna, Kalayavana had heard about Krishna from Narada Muni, and now the descriptions of Narada were confirmed. Kalayavana noticed Krishna's specific marks and the jewels on Krishna's chest, Krishna's beautiful garland of lotus flower, Krishna's lotus-like eyes, and similar beautiful bodily features. Kalayavana thus concluded that this beautiful personality must be Vasudeva, for every description Kalayavana had previously heard from Narada was substantiated by this presence of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This next episode is entitled Krishna Tricks Kalayavana. Kalayavana was astonished to see Krishna passing through his army without any weapon in Krishna's hands and even without any chariot, for Krishna was simply walking on foot. Kalayavana had come to fight with Krishna, and yet Kalayavana had sufficient principles not to take up any kind of weapon. Kalayavana decided to fight with Krishna hand to hand. Thus, Kalayavana prepared to capture Krishna and fight. However, Krishna went ahead without even looking at Kalayavana. Kalayavana then followed Krishna with a desire to capture Krishna. But in spite of his swift running, Kalayavana could not capture Krishna. This is because Krishna cannot be captured even by great yogis traveling at the speed of the mind. Krishna can be captured only by those who follow the path of devotional service. and Kalayavana was not practiced in devotional service. Kalayavana wanted to capture Krishna, and since Kalayavana could not do so, Kalayavana was forced to follow Krishna from behind. Kalayavana began running very fast, thinking, "Now I am nearer. I will capture Krishna." But Kalayavana could not. Krishna then led Kalayavana far away and entered the cave of a hill. Kalayavana thought that Krishna was simply trying to avoid fighting with him and was therefore taking shelter of the cave. Kalayavana rebuked Krishna with the following words: "O Krishna, I have heard that you are a great hero, born in the dynasty of Yadu. But I see that you are running away from fighting, just like a coward. And so it is not worthy of your good name and the family tradition." Kalayavana was following, running very fast. But still, Kalayavana could not catch Krishna, because Kalayavana was not freed from all contaminations of sinful life. According to Vedic culture, anyone who does not follow the regulative principles observed by their higher caste, namely the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, or even those observed by the laborer class, the Shudras, is called a Malecha or Yavana. The Vedic social situation is so planned that persons accepted as Shudras can gradually be elevated to the position of Brahmanas by the cultural advancement known as sanskar, or the purificatory process. The verdict of the Vedic scriptures is that no one becomes a Brahmana, no one becomes a Malecha simply by birth. For in Kali Yuga, by birth, everyone is to be accepted as a Shudra. So one has to therefore elevate him or herself by the purificatory process to the stage of Brahminical life. If one does not do this, and if one degrades oneself further, then one is called Malecha or Yavana. So Kalayavana belonged to this class of Malechas and Yavanas. Contaminated by sinful activities, Kalayavana could not approach Krishna. The principles from which higher class men are restricted, namely illicit sexual indulgence, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication, are an integral part of the lives of the Malechas and Yavanas. Being bound by such sinful activities, one cannot make any advancement in God realization. Bhagavad Gita confirms this. Yeshang tu antikatang papam jananang punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mang dridha vrata. Only one completely freed from all sinful reactions is able to actually engage in devotional service or Krishna consciousness. When Krishna entered the cave of the hill, Kalayavana followed, chastising Krishna and speaking various harsh words. Suddenly, Krishna disappeared from the demon's sight, but Kalayavana followed and entered the cave. The first thing Kalayavana saw was a man lying down asleep within the cave. Kalayavana was so eager to fight with Krishna, so when Kalayavana could not see Krishna but instead saw only a man lying down, Kalayavana thought that this must be Krishna sleeping within the cave. Kalayavana was very much puffed up and proud of his strength. And so Kalayavana thought Krishna was avoiding the fight. Therefore Kalayavana, thinking that the sleeping man was Krishna, strongly kicked the sleeping man, thinking him to be Krishna. The sleeping man had been lying down for a very long time, and when suddenly awakened by the kicking of Kalayavana, the sleeping man immediately opened his eyes and began to look all around in all directions. At last, he saw Kalayavana standing nearby. The sleeping man was untimely awakened, and therefore he became very angry. And when he looked upon Kalayavana in this angry mood, rays of fire emanated from his eyes, and Kalayavana was burnt to ashes within a moment. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This episode is entitled The History of the Sleeping Man. When Maharaj Parikshit heard this incident of Kalayavana's being burned to ashes, Parikshit inquired about the sleeping man from Shukadeva Goswami. So, who was that sleeping man? Why was he sleeping there? How had he achieved so much power that instantly by his glance, Kalayavana was burned to ashes? How did it happen that he was lying down in the cave of a hill? So Parikshit put many questions before Shukadeva Goswami, and Shukadeva answered as follows. My dear King Parikshit, this person was born in the very great family of King Ikshvaku, in which Lord Ramachandra was also born. And he happened to be the son of a great king known as Mandata. He himself was also a great soul and was known popularly as Muchukunda. This king Muchukunda was a strict follower of the Vedic principles of Brahminical culture and was truthful to his promise. Muchukunda was so powerful that even demigods like Indra used to ask Muchukunda to help in fighting with the demons. And so, as such, Muchukunda often fought against the demons in order to protect the demigods. The commander-in-chief of the demigods, known as Kartikeya or Skanda, was satisfied with the fighting of King Muchukunda. And so Kartikeya asked the king that after having taken so much trouble in fighting the demons, that he now retire from fighting and take rest. Kartikeya addressed King Muchukunda. My dear king, you have sacrificed everything for the sake of us demigods. You had a very nice kingdom, undisturbed by any kind of enemy. But you left that kingdom, neglected your opulence and possessions, and never cared for the fulfillment of your own personal ambitions. Now, due to your long absence from your kingdom while fighting the demons on behalf of us demigods, your queen, your children, relatives, and ministers have all passed away in due course of time, because time and tide wait for no man. So now, even if you were to return home, you will find no one living there. Yes, the influence of time is very strong. Time is so powerful because it is a representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Time is therefore stronger than the strongest. The influence of time can effect changes in subtle things without difficulty. No one can check the progress of eternal time. Just as an animal tamer tames animals according to one's will, time also adjusts things according to its own will. No one, therefore, can supersede the arrangement made by supreme time. Thus, addressing Muchukunda, the demigod Kartikeya requested Muchukunda to ask any benediction he might be pleased with, except the benediction of liberation. For no demigod can award liberation. Liberation can be awarded only by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mukunda. Another name of Lord Vishnu or Krishna is Mukunda, one who can award liberation. King Muchukunda had not slept for many years. Muchukunda was engaged in the duty of fighting, and therefore Muchukunda was very tired. So when Kartikeya offered the benediction, Muchukunda simply thought of sleeping, and he replied as follows: "My dear Kartikeya, O best of the demigods, now I want to sleep, and I want from you the following benediction. Grant me the power to burn to ashes, simply by my mere glance, anyone who disturbs my sleeping and awakens me untimely. Please give me this benediction." The demigod Kartikeya agreed, and also gave Muchukunda the benediction that he would be able to take complete rest. Then King Muchukunda entered the cave of the mountain. So on the strength of the benediction of Kartikeya, Muchukunda burned Kalayavana to ashes simply by glancing at him. There are some notes on this section found in the 10th canto as follows. Muchukunda had fought for a long time on behalf of the demigods, finally taking as his benediction the right to sleep undisturbed. Muchukunda also secured the further benediction of being able to destroy anyone who happened to disturb his sleep. Again and again, Muchukunda said, "O demigods, with eyes blazing with anger, may I incinerate anyone who awakens me from sleep." Muchukunda made this rather morbid request just to scare Lord Indra, who, Muchukunda thought, might otherwise wake him repeatedly to request his help in fighting Indra's cosmic enemies, the demons. But the demigods thus declared, "That insensitive person who wakes you in the middle of your sleep will immediately turn to ashes simply by your glancing upon him." Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This episode is entitled King Muchukunda Meets Lord Krishna. When the incident of the killing of Kaliyavana was over, Krishna then came before King Muchukunda. Krishna had actually entered the cave to deliver King Muchukunda for his austerity. But Krishna did not appear before Muchukunda first. Krishna arranged that first Kaliyavana should come before Muchukunda. And that is the way of the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna does one thing in such a way that many other purposes are served. Krishna wanted to deliver King Muchukunda, who was sleeping in the cave. And at the same time, Krishna wanted to kill Kaliyavana, who had attacked Mathura city. So by this action, Krishna served all of his purposes. When Lord Krishna appeared before Muchukunda, the king saw Krishna dressed in a yellow garment, Krishna's chest marked with the symbol of Sri Vatsa, the symbol of the goddess of fortune, and the Kaustuba Mani jewel hanging around Krishna's neck. Krishna appeared before Muchukunda with 4 hands as the Vishnu Murti, with a garland called Vaijayanti hanging from his neck down to his knees. Krishna looked lustrous. His face was beautifully smiling, and Krishna had nice jeweled earrings in his ears. Krishna appeared more beautiful than a human being could actually conceive. And not only did Krishna appear in this feature, but Krishna glanced over Muchukunda with great affection, thus attracting the king's mind. Although Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although Krishna was the oldest of all, still Krishna looked like a fresh young boy, and Krishna's movements were just like those of a free deer. Still, Krishna appeared extremely powerful. Krishna's influence and vast power are so great that every human being should be afraid of Krishna. When King Muchukunda saw Krishna's magnificent features, Muchukunda wondered about Krishna's identity. And so, with great humility, Muchukunda inquired from Krishna, "My dear Lord, may I inquire how it is that you happen to be in this cave? Who are you? I can see that your feet are just like soft lotus flowers. How could you walk in this forest full of thorns and pebbles? Why, I am simply surprised to see this. Are you not, therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the most powerful amongst the powerful? Are you not the original source of all illumination and fire? Or should I consider you one of the great demigods, like the sun god, moon god, or Indra, king of heaven? Or are you the predominating deity of some other planet? Muchukunda knew well that every higher planetary system has a predominating deity. Muchukunda was not ignorant like modern men who think that this planet Earth is full of living entities and all others are vacant. The inquiry from Muchukunda about Krishna's being the predominating deity of a planet unknown to him is quite appropriate. Because Muchukunda was a pure devotee of the Lord, King Mutukunda could immediately understand that Lord Krishna, who had appeared before Muchukunda in such an opulent feature, could not really be one of the predominating deities within the material planets. Muchukunda was sure that Krishna must be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has unlimited Vishnu forms. Muchukunda therefore took Krishna to be Purushottama, Lord Vishnu himself. Muchukunda could also see that the dense darkness within the mountain cave had been dissipated by Krishna's presence. Therefore, Krishna could not be other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Muchukunda knew very well that wherever the Lord is personally present, by his transcendental name, qualities, form, and so on, there cannot be any darkness of ignorance. Krishna is like a lamp placed in the darkness. Krishna immediately illuminates a dark place. King Muchukunda was eager to know the identity of Lord Krishna, and therefore Muchukunda spoke. O best of human beings, if you think that I am fit to know about your identity, kindly tell me who you are. What is your parentage? What is your occupational duty? And what is your family tradition? King Muchukunda thought it wise, however, to identify himself to the Lord first. Otherwise, he had no right to ask the Lord's identity. Etiquette is such that a person of less importance cannot ask the identity of a person of higher importance without first disclosing one's own identity. King Muchukunda therefore told Lord Krishna, "My dear Lord, let me first inform you of my own identity. I belong to the most celebrated dynasty of King Ikshvaku, but personally, I am not as great as my forefather. My name is Muchukunda. My father's name was Mandata, and my grandfather was the great king Yuvanashva. I had become very much fatigued due to not resting for many thousands of years, and because of this, all my bodily limbs were slack and almost incapable of acting. To revive my energy, I was taking rest in this solitary cave, but I have been awakened by some unknown man who has forced me to wake up, although I was not willing to do so. For such an offensive act, I have burned this person to ashes simply by glancing over him. Fortunately, now I can see you in this grand and beautiful feature. I think, therefore, that you are the cause of my killing my enemy. My dear Lord, I must admit that due to your bodily effulgence, which is actually unbearable to my eyes, thus I cannot see you properly. I can fully realize that the influence of your effulgence has diminished my own power. I can understand that you are quite fit for being worshipped by all living entities. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. So we'll do one more episode and then call it for today. This episode is entitled, Krishna Informs Muchukunda About His Identity. Seeing King Muchukunda eager to know about his identity, Lord Krishna answered smilingly as follows. My dear king, practically it is impossible to tell about my birth, appearance, disappearance, and activities. For perhaps you know that my incarnation, Ananta Deva, has unlimited mouths, and for an unlimited time has been trying to narrate fully about my name, fame, qualities, activities, appearance, disappearance, and incarnation. But still, Anantadeva has not been able to finish. Therefore, it is not possible to know exactly how many names and forms I possess. Although it may be possible for a material scientist to estimate the number of atomic particles which make up this earthly planet, but the scientist cannot enumerate my unlimited names, forms, and activities. Many sages and saintly persons have tried to list my different forms and activities, and yet they have failed to make a complete list. But since you are so eager to know about me, may I inform you that I have now appeared on this planet Earth just to annihilate the demoniac principles of the people in general and reestablish the principles, the religious principles enjoined in the Vedas. And I have been invited for this purpose by Lord Brahma, the superintending deity of this universe. And thus I have now appeared in the dynasty of the Yadus as one of their family members. I have specifically taken birth as the son of Vasudeva in the Yadu dynasty, and people therefore know me as Vasudeva. And you may also know that it was I who have killed Kamsa, who in a previous life was known as Kalanemi, and I have killed him as well as Pralamba Asura and many other demons. They have all acted as my enemies, and I have killed them. Now, the demon who was present before you also acted as my enemy, and you have very kindly burned him to ashes by glancing over him. My dear King Muchukunda, you are my great devotee, and just to show you my causeless mercy, I have appeared within this cave. You should know I am very affectionately inclined towards my devotees, and I know that in your previous life, before your present condition, you acted as my great devotee and prayed for my causeless mercy. I have therefore come to see you in order to fulfill your desire. Now you can see me to your heart's content. My dear king, you may now ask for me any benediction you wish, for I am prepared to fulfill any desire. It is my eternal principle that anyone who comes under my shelter must have all of their desires fulfilled by my grace. When Lord Krishna ordered King Muchukunda to ask a benediction from him, the king was joyful and immediately remembered the prediction of Garga Muni, who had foretold long before that in the 28th millennium of Vaivasvata Manu, Lord Krishna would appear on this planet Earth. As soon as Muchukunda remembered this prediction, Muchukunda understood that the Supreme Person, Narayana, was now present before him as Lord Krishna. Immediately, Muchukunda fell down at Krishna's lotus feet and began to pray as follows. And we will study those prayers next week. Now it is time for your spiritual insurance policy. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Prahlad Ahlad Dayane. Hiranya Kashipura Vakshaha. Shilatanganakalage. Ito Nrsinga Parato Nrsinho. Yato Yato Yami Tato Nrsinga. Bahir Nrsinho Hridaye Nrsinho. Nrsingham Adim Sharanang Prapadye. Nrsingham Adim Sharanang Prapadye. Nrsingham Adim Sharanang Prapadye. Tavakara Kamalavare Nakham Adbhuta Sringam. Dalita Hiranya Kashipu Tanu Bringam. Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadish. Jai Jagadish. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Tat Sat.